there's a short life in
Why do you think that is with the creative side?
Well, because losing out money, you got to take drugs. You're going through so much to try and deal with life.
The haters bring you down. Just keep going. Keep chasing your passions and dreams no matter what. Do not let negative people get between you and your goals.
50 Cent has shifted gears. He's no longer just dropping veiled threats, he's making bold promises. In a move that has the entire entertainment industry on edge, Curtis 50 Cent Jackson went public with claims that could shake the streaming world. According to him, he possesses a staggering 140 hours of previously unreleased footage from his Netflix documentary on Sean Diddy Combs. And this isn't just the typical behind-the-scenes content or discarded outtakes. Jackson insists this is material so incendiary that even Netflix itself balked at airing it. Sources say the streaming giant didn't cut this footage because it was extraneous or boring, it was because it was explosive, the kind of content that could stir controversy on a massive scale. And now, 50 Cent is teasing that every second Netflix tried to suppress could soon be unleashed online, raw, unfiltered, and untamed, likely on platforms like YouTube. In his own words, he's prepared to show the world exactly what they didn't want anyone to see. The post Jackson made appeared briefly, lingering online for just 2 hours before disappearing, but its impact was immediate. Industry insiders report that the moment it vanished, Netflix boardroom phones were ringing off the hook, with executives scrambling to assess the potential fallout. The message was clear: 50 Cent isn't playing, he's poised to release a level of content that could rewrite the narrative around one of hip-hop's most influential figures, and the world is watching to see what comes next.
Yeah, it's not surprising that they tried to get out in front of this and tried to persuade Netflix not to come forward with it. I think it's an interesting argument because what they're claiming is, Curtis Jackson, aka 50 Cent, has had a long-standing, animosity against Diddy and sort of vice versa. And because he's at the helm, they're arguing this can't be taken seriously. This should sort of be seen as propaganda. And one of the things that Netflix hit back with was, yes, he's the executive producer. He doesn't necessarily have creative control.
What's unfolding isn't just a story, it's a full-blown battle over reputation, ego, and control of the narrative, and the shockwaves are already rattling the entertainment world. Sean Diddy Combs remains behind bars in New Jersey, serving just over 4 years for transporting individuals for immoral purposes, a conviction that capped a courtroom saga stretching across 2 years, filled with trials, accusations, and witnesses who laid bare the inner workings of his empire. But whispers circulating now aren't focused on the conviction itself. They're about what never made it to the screen. According to sources close to 50 Cent's G-Unit film and television division, there exists a cache of footage so revealing it went beyond even what prosecutors pursued. These tapes allegedly contain uncut testimonies, unused interviews, and behind-the-scenes recordings that Netflix reportedly couldn't legally clear for broadcast. Insiders claim the content doesn't merely challenge Diddy's public persona, it calls into question just how far the industry went to shield it. For its part, Netflix maintains that nothing was intentionally hidden, insisting all editorial decisions were standard practice. But the existence of these unseen tapes, and the hints that 50 Cent is ready to release them, has set off a storm of speculation, leaving executives, fans, and critics alike wondering, what really happened behind the cameras, and how much of the story were we never meant to see?
Yeah, it's hard to say because there's still such a big question mark in the air because, Curtis Jackson, aka 50 Cent, is one of the executive producers on the series. Him, the director, Netflix in general is not saying where they got this footage, only that it was obtained legally. Diddy's side is saying this is coming from a videographer I hired. I know we'll get into the cease and desist. One of the arguments they make is, this is subject to NDAs or agreements that the videographer had signed with Diddy because he was, employed by Diddy.
Netflix maintained that the documentary project had been fully cleared, emphasizing that Curtis 50 Cent Jackson served as an executive producer but did not have final say over the edit. On the other hand, Sean Diddy Combs' legal team painted a very different picture. Just days before the series was set to premiere in December 2025, Diddy's lawyers issued a sharply worded cease and desist letter, claiming that key footage had been illicitly taken from Combs' private archives, a collection of video recordings he had been filming of himself since the age of 19. The letter branded the documentary a violation of his personal rights, calling it a shameful hit piece and accusing Netflix of ceding creative control to Jackson, who they suggested was motivated by a personal vendetta. Despite the legal threats and public warnings, Netflix pressed forward with the release. On December 2nd, the 4-part series, Sean Combs, The Reckoning, premiered on the streaming platform, and by the next morning, it had already become the most-watched true crime title on Netflix. Audiences across the globe were glued to their screens, consuming the story that had been carefully edited for public release. But while viewers were engrossed in what they were shown, 50 Cent was active online, posting cryptic countdowns, sly smirks, and enigmatic emojis, sending a clear message: what the public had just witnessed was only a fragment of the story. Behind the carefully curated footage lay hours of material yet unseen, potentially far more explosive, unfiltered, and revealing than anyone had anticipated.
I think it was surprising that he actually filmed it. Yeah, and I want to ask about that because how did you go about getting the footage? And do you know the intent of the videographer, why he or this person took the footage?
She's a journalist, right?
Yeah.
So she's not going to reveal her sources, so you don't have to reveal that.
The roots of this feud stretch back decades, long before courtroom battles, lawsuits, or highly publicized trials. Curtis 50 Cent Jackson had been sounding alarms about what he called puffy parties for years, often cloaking serious accusations in humor. He mocked, provoked, and teased online, frequently crossing lines that made observers uncomfortable, but beneath the jokes was a persistent suggestion: Diddy's glittering, high-profile lifestyle might be concealing something far darker than anyone wanted to admit. The tension was already apparent in 2006, when Diddy refused to release rapper Maze from his Bad Boy Records contract. In response, 50 Cent dropped a track loaded with innuendo, implying that Diddy knew more about the tragedy surrounding the notorious B.I.G. than he had ever publicly acknowledged. Despite the undercurrent of conflict, the two men still appeared together on the same stage alongside Jay-Z at Madison Square Garden that year, smiling for the cameras as if nothing were amiss. Yet behind the public facade, 50 Cent was already signaling discomfort. In later interviews, he spoke of feeling uneasy around Diddy, describing stories of lavish invitations and inappropriate offers that suggested a reality far removed from the standard music rivalry. At the time, these warnings went largely unnoticed, fans shrugged, the press barely touched on them, and the industry carried on as usual. Now, with decades of hindsight and the current storm surrounding unreleased footage and explosive documentaries, people are revisiting those old statements and interviews with fresh eyes. Suddenly, it appears that 50 Cent may have been sending signals all along, quietly building a narrative that the public would only fully grasp years later. What once seemed like jokes, sly digs, or harmless provocations now reads like a foreshadowing of a feud that would grow into one of the most scrutinized and consequential conflicts in modern hip-hop history.
Size power. One could watch this and think that you really hate Sean Combs.
Why would they be thinking that?
Because of the things that you post on Instagram,
Yeah,
because
this,
of the...
Look at this, and let's stop for a second and do say that I hated him enough to hire his kids. And we've never done anything to each other. So it's just competitive energy and things that you say about other artists while you're in.
The documentary that 50 Cent produced alongside director Alexandria Stapleton presented audiences with a carefully structured account of Sean Diddy Combs' downfall, but what they saw was only a fraction of the story. The series chronicled high-profile controversies, including Cassie Ventura's 2023 lawsuit and the federal trial that followed, which delved into allegations of manipulation, intimidation, and violence behind closed doors. Framed as a true crime investigation, the documentary featured interviews with jurors, former employees, and ex-artists such as Aubrey O'Day and Mark Curry, painting a portrait of excess, coercion, and the freakouts, as witnesses described them, that punctuated Diddy's private life. Yet, according to insiders, the series left out the most explosive material, the footage that could have fundamentally altered public perception. The raw video capturing Diddy's final days before his arrest, including hotel rants, private phone calls, and intimate backstage moments, was heavily blurred, shortened, or edited entirely out. Netflix cited legal concerns for the cuts, insisting that the decisions were necessary to avoid liability. But sources close to 50 Cent claim he never agreed with these edits. They maintain that the footage Netflix withheld wasn't just sensitive, it was potentially incriminating, the kind of evidence that could redefine the narrative entirely. This is where the rumored 140 hours of unreleased material comes into play. According to production staff speaking off the record to entertainment reporters, Netflix only licensed roughly a quarter of the footage that G-Unit had delivered. The remainder was shelved following internal review, with executives reportedly fretting over potential legal exposure, a diplomatic way of acknowledging that lawsuits were a serious concern. Those concerns were far from unfounded. Diddy's legal team has already floated the possibility of suing both Netflix and 50 Cent personally, accusing them of exploiting recordings that were illegally obtained. Adding another layer to the drama, a former cameraman who once worked for Diddy told a media outlet that a third party may have leaked the hotel footage while he was out of town, a claim that cannot be independently verified but has only fueled speculation and chaos. The central fact remains, the footage exists, but no one can agree on who owns it. And now, the man whose brand is built on defiance and audacity is hinting that he may release it to a platform where no one can stop him, YouTube. The implication is clear: what audiences watched on Netflix was only the beginning. The full story, unfiltered and uncut, could be just around the corner, ready to ignite a storm that the music industry and the public has never seen before.
The feeling that I have about the documentary, man, it was just old news, and they took a couple of with the footage from Puff from the days that's leading up him to get arrested, and the incidents with the people from the courts, you know, the two people from the courts. So it was nothing new.
The irony of the situation isn't lost on anyone. For years, Sean Diddy Combs meticulously documented nearly every aspect of his life, his parties, his business meetings, and even private conversations with lawyers. Friends and insiders often described it as a way to maintain control, to ensure that he could shape his own legacy on tape. Little did he know that the very habit that gave him power and foresight could ultimately contribute to his downfall. The documentary The Reckoning offered viewers only fleeting glimpses of this extensive archive. Short, carefully selected clips showed Diddy pacing through luxury hotel suites, discussing strategy with attorneys, reassuring staff that everything was under control. On screen, he appeared composed, charismatic, and untouchable. Yet sources close to the editing process claim that what remained unseen, the bulk of the footage, paints a far more revealing picture. Hidden within the unreleased hours are conversations about pending lawsuits, confidential witness statements, and potential settlements, moments that suggest Diddy was fully aware of the legal and public pressures closing in around him. According to those familiar with G-Unit's production, 50 Cent's team believes these unreleased recordings prove something deeper than recklessness. They portray a man who was calculating, strategic, and deliberate in his actions. Every movement, every discussion, every decision captured on tape reveals a layer of intent that the public has yet to see. Meanwhile, the fallout from the documentary continues to expand. Social media speculation runs rampant, legal threats linger, and entertainment insiders are left questioning how much of Diddy's carefully crafted image was reality, and how much was performance. The stakes are higher than ever. If the full archive is ever released, it could rewrite the story of one of the most powerful figures in hip-hop history. And with 50 Cent hinting that he may share the unfiltered footage on platforms where no one can intervene, the world may soon witness a version of events that Diddy himself never intended anyone to see.
If he gets 14 months, if the defense gets what they want, he'd essentially get out October 3rd because
he's been in
for a year,
months.
And you get 15% credit for time served. So he'd basically be out after the sentence, and then he'd be on supervised release.
Right.
Following his conviction in July 2025, Sean Diddy Combs was sentenced to 50 months in a low-security federal facility. While he has filed an appeal, as of early 2026 he remains behind bars, confined and under close supervision. Yet, being incarcerated hasn't slowed the cascade of legal troubles surrounding him. Dozens of civil suits remain active, and new claims continue to emerge from alleged victims linked to his notorious white parties, events that once symbolized glamour, influence, and untouchable wealth but are now being scrutinized in court as potential grounds for exploitation. Some of the cases reach back decades. One lawsuit alleges that a 16-year-old attendee was manipulated during the very first white party in 1998. Other filings recount chilling accounts of individuals waking up disoriented after consuming spiked beverages, with little to no memory of what occurred inside the sprawling Hampton mansions. Lawyers for Diddy vigorously deny each claim, labeling them as fabricated and sensationalized, yet the denials seem only to intensify public scrutiny. Investigators, journalists, and social media sleuths continue to comb through decades of reports, interviews, and archival material, searching for corroboration or overlooked details. The contrast between Diddy's curated public persona and the serious allegations continues to fuel speculation. What once were celebrated gatherings of wealth, celebrity, and excess are now being re-examined under a darker lens. Every new claim, every resurfaced story, seems to add another layer to a complex, decades-long narrative, one where fame, fortune, and power intersect with legal accountability in ways that could have lasting consequences for one of hip-hop's most prominent figures.
When you get to the parties, they come out and collect everybody's phone. So now it's just your word against a billionaire. You're gonna lose.
This is the environment into which 50 Cent is stepping, not merely as an artist, but as a meticulous executor of narrative control. Every move he makes on social media seems calculated, every post timed to coincide with critical moments, like Diddy's ongoing appeal filings. They act as pressure points, subtle but relentless reminders that the story is far from over. Just last week, he posted, then quickly deleted, a message that read, "They can't hide forever." For those paying close attention, it was a clear signal that the unreleased footage is more than a rumor, it's real, and it's poised to disrupt the carefully constructed public image of one of music's most powerful figures. According to sources close to 50 Cent, the archive isn't just a chaotic collection of raw video. It has allegedly been meticulously organized, each drive labeled, every clip timestamped, cross-referenced, and categorized. Insiders even claim that one folder contains material covering the weeks surrounding the death of Kim Porter in 2018, a section Netflix reportedly chose to omit entirely from The Reckoning. The omission has sparked endless speculation. Was it excluded out of respect for the family, or because the content exposed connections and context that no one wanted publicly examined? The reaction across the industry has been strikingly muted, almost eerily so. Executives, lawyers, and insiders seem to be watching from the sidelines, weighing their options, knowing that once this vault opens, the narrative could shift irrevocably. For 50 Cent, the stage is set. He's not just telling a story, he's threatening to hand the public the unfiltered version, the one Netflix couldn't or wouldn't show. And in an environment where every detail is scrutinized, every omission analyzed, the impact of what remains unseen could be more explosive than anything already aired.
You know what I mean? Like, but they don't know the lingo, like, if they're not paying attention to the music to understand that there's a problem getting ready to take place.
Are you and Game, you think your relationship is repairable?
Executives who once hailed Sean Diddy Combs as a visionary now tread carefully, their praise replaced by caution. Artists who once collaborated with him are quietly declining interviews, avoiding public commentary. Even Alexandria Stapleton, the director of the Netflix documentary, has reportedly stopped speaking publicly about the project. In a media landscape where silence is telling, the only voice cutting through the noise belongs to 50 Cent. And he's speaking like a man who understands the endgame. Beneath the memes, the smirks, and the teasing social media posts lies a meticulous strategy. This isn't just about embarrassment or exposing one individual, it's about revealing the system itself, how the industry bends, shields, and protects its biggest icons, even when evidence points to troubling truths. The promise implicit in 50's words is clear: when the unreleased footage drops, it won't merely rewrite public perception of one man, it could crack open an entire ecosystem long thought untouchable. For insiders and observers alike, that's the part nobody in the business wants to confront. Because if even half of what 50 Cent is sitting on is authentic, then Sean Combs, the reckoning was never the conclusion. It was merely the trailer, the first glimpse of a story that, when fully revealed, could rewrite the narrative of power, influence, and accountability in the world of music and celebrity.
Continue to engage in all these freak-offs with him, and he sounds really pissed off.
Hey, I really don't know what's going on with you, but I just want to just give you a heads up that I'm about to really disappear on you. You feel me? I'm not going to be playing these games with you at all, at all. So I don't know, you think you silent treating me, and you think I'm going to be, nah. You'll have a rude awakening. You'll just have silence.
What we're witnessing now feels like the calm before a second storm. 50 Cent has begun teasing what fans are calling Vault Fridays, dropping cryptic hints and subtle countdowns that send the internet into a frenzy. Social media is buzzing, fans are marking their calendars, tracking every post, and dissecting every emoji or sly smirk for hidden meaning. Meanwhile, Diddy's legal team is reportedly drafting new injunctions, trying to anticipate and block the release. Netflix's internal lawyers are said to be reviewing whether they can assert any claim over the unreleased material. Yet despite all this maneuvering, nothing feels secure. Every move 50 Cent makes online is scrutinized for clues. A single phrase, a repost, a subtle gesture, and rumors spike. The message is clear: the vault exists. It's organized, ready, and waiting. The real question isn't if it will drop, it's who will feel the first wave of its impact. And if you listen closely to the sudden silence from Netflix following these posts, it's hard not to suspect they know there's more buried in those 140 hours than anyone has publicly admitted. Because this isn't just about embarrassing one superstar. According to sources and insiders, the full vault could expose a network, a system, and a culture that thrived behind Diddy's rise, one that protected power, hid misdeeds, and manipulated the narrative for decades. The footage doesn't just threaten a name, it threatens the structure that allowed that name to become untouchable. And now, the world is on the edge, waiting for the moment the storm finally hits.
As I said, never before seen footage of the days leading up to his arrest. Can you just talk a little bit about, was there anything that surprised you from that footage?
The footage, well, I mean, I think it's rare to find someone who's being, talked about all over the country. All eyes were on him, so to speak. And it was really interesting to see his last days of freedom, and what...
The whispers from inside the editing bay have been remarkably consistent. According to multiple sources, full testimonies never made it to air. Uncut statements from former employees, long, uninterrupted sequences filmed at Diddy's own mansion in the days leading up to the raids. The cameras, it seems, kept rolling long after the production crew had officially wrapped. Those who claim to have glimpsed fragments say the footage didn't resemble a traditional documentary anymore. It looked more like surveillance, raw, intimate, and unsettling. And when you remember Diddy's well-known obsession with filming every aspect of his life, it begins to sound less like rumor and more like a deliberate act he might have engineered himself. Much has been made of Cassie Ventura's 2023 lawsuit, but insiders say the unaired portion of her interview went far beyond what Netflix released. While the version streamed worldwide included short clips of her describing a controlling relationship, the remainder allegedly captured incidents that lawyers never cleared, confrontations and interactions that later mirrored testimony heard in federal court. One editor told a gossip blog that these scenes made executives visibly uneasy, not only because they featured high-profile names we all recognized, producers, other artists, even a retired television executive who attended Diddy's private events, but also because they carried serious legal risk. Netflix's team reportedly flagged the material as potentially defamatory, and within 24 hours, an order came down to remove it from the edit. Those who worked on the documentary say 50 Cent fought the decision tooth and nail, arguing that sanitizing the footage was equivalent to erasing the truth. In the end, the contested clips were pulled, the hard drives containing the uncut material were locked away, and the vault, the legendary 140 hours of unreleased footage, began to take shape, growing in both size and significance. What had started as a documentary became, for insiders, a repository of secrets, a ticking time bomb of revelations, and a narrative that someone was clearly preparing to unleash.
Did Phil explain why he's speaking out now?
He said he's speaking out because he believes Diddy's a predator, he wants accountability, and he doesn't want someone like this to run unchecked in the future.
And then there's Kim Porter, a chapter of the story that has always carried weight, both publicly and privately. Her sudden passing in 2018 was officially attributed to health complications, but from the very moment it happened, speculation swirled around her death. What the public didn't see, however, is that The Reckoning originally included an entire segment dedicated to her, featuring interviews with those who were closest to her and recordings that Diddy himself had kept from those years. According to insiders, one particularly haunting clip shows Diddy alone, speaking directly to a camera, recounting how he couldn't sleep the night before Kim was found. Taken out of context, even a single line could be explosive, revealing vulnerability, guilt, or intent, and many sources claim this is precisely why Netflix lawyers ordered the entire chapter removed. Crew members familiar with the decision say it wasn't simply a matter of taste or sensitivity. The concern, they insist, was containment. Once the footage was aired, they feared, it could not be taken back, the narrative, and perhaps even legal interpretations, would be impossible to control. Other sequences in the deleted footage are equally chilling. One segment reportedly ties directly to Kid Cudi's firebombed car, an event prosecutors did reference during the trial. According to court filings, Cassie Ventura testified that Diddy once threatened to send a message to Cudi after learning she had been romantically involved with him. Shortly thereafter, Cudi's car exploded in his driveway. The footage that never aired allegedly included interviews, surveillance, and private recordings connected to the incident, material that, insiders say, made executives extremely uneasy. Taken together, the unreleased segments paint a portrait far more complex than the curated documentary allowed. They hint at a world where power, influence, and personal relationships intersected in ways that were never meant to be public, and where small actions could have dangerous, unforeseen consequences. For those who saw fragments of the unaired footage, it was clear, this wasn't just storytelling. It was documentation, surveillance, and a record of a life and empire operating at the edge of both fame and peril.
And I know you said he explained all of the items that were involved in these Wild King nights. Did he mention who would participate as well?
A lot of them were unknown to him. He did mention that a lot of the women were very, very young as 20, not underage, but certainly young women.
He walked away unharmed, and the case was never definitively proven, yet jurors heard testimony suggesting a connection to Diddy's inner circle. In the version of events shown on Netflix, viewers only saw a fleeting glimpse, brief context that barely scratched the surface. According to insiders, however, the raw footage told a far more detailed and unsettling story. One segment reportedly features an interview with a former assistant, describing being ordered to make a problem go away during the same week that Kid Cudi's car was destroyed. If this footage truly exists, if it captures that moment on film, then 50 Cent isn't holding back for petty reasons or dramatic effect. He is allegedly holding material that could qualify as critical evidence, material that could reshape the narrative entirely. Beneath all of this sits a question no one in the industry wants to answer. Was Netflix removing and editing so much footage to protect Diddy, or were they protecting themselves? Diddy's lawyers have made their position clear, sending cease and desist letters and claiming that the footage was stolen recordings he allegedly created for a private project, not for public distribution. Yet sources close to the production maintain that the material was legally obtained from a third-party documentarian who had been embedded with Diddy for years, documenting his life in ways even Netflix could not ignore. Even Alexandria Stapleton, the director of the project, has publicly expressed skepticism about the decision to remove so much content. It came to us, she said, acknowledging that the footage was handed over legally. So if everything was above board, why remove so much? The statement only fuels the speculation. What was in that footage that made executives, legal teams, and producers so uneasy? The implication is clear. What remains unseen may not just embarrass one man, it could implicate the mechanisms, relationships, and systems that enabled an empire to thrive for decades, all while staying largely out of the public eye.
That footage ended up going to 50 Cent and his production company, and it's kind of the centerpiece.
Sold to them.
Yes, was the centerpiece of the documentary. So watch this particular scene, because this is where a lot of people feel Diddy really screwed over someone that he should be. The
more we dig, the clearer it becomes.
Thankful for.
The edits weren't primarily about accuracy, they were about insurance. Every scandal that made it onto Netflix screens came with documentation, trial evidence, or sworn testimony. What didn't make it? That's where the material without paperwork lives, the whispered stories, the unverified claims, the sequences that existed only in the shadows, too risky to air but too explosive to ignore. Industry insiders note that Netflix has faced similar dilemmas before. In 2022, they successfully defended a controversial documentary accused of using misappropriated footage. By precedent, they likely could have weathered this storm as well. Yet, in this case, they chose a different path. Instead of standing firm, Netflix cut entire hours of content and returned the footage to the producers. That handoff, sources say, may have handed 50 Cent the leverage he now wields so publicly, the kind of control he openly flaunts online. Whether that control stemmed from a contractual clause, careful negotiation, or quiet panic remains unclear. What is certain is that once Netflix surrendered the drives, they forfeited their most significant leverage over the story. Meanwhile, people close to Diddy report that he is furious. His legal team has labeled the footage hacked and has hinted at a possible lawsuit directly targeting 50 Cent himself. But while legal defenses are being drafted, the public conversation is already racing ahead. Every time 50 Cent posts online, hashtags like #TheVaultice trend instantly, fans scrutinize every emoji and cryptic caption, and speculation spreads like wildfire. The stage is set, the vault exists, the content is organized, and a storm is building, one that could reshape the narrative not only of Diddy's empire but of the system that protected it for decades.
What's your intent with the series, with the film?
I mean, I think the intention is to give a more full-bodied experience to what happened, from the people that agreed to sit down and to participate. And I feel like the film asks a lot of questions, maybe more questions are asked than answers given.
Fans aren't just watching, they're investigating. Every old interview, every social media post, every passing reference is being scrutinized for hidden clues. Viewers freeze-frame Instagram stories to analyze background objects, hard drive labels, folder names, or even fleeting reflections in a computer screen. Each tiny, seemingly insignificant detail becomes a breadcrumb on a trail leading straight back to the fabled vault. And the most astonishing part? Some of what they're uncovering appears to be real. A tech-focused blog recently verified that several timestamps visible in these fan detective hunts align with footage that was briefly teased in Netflix's promotional trailer months before the documentary's release. This strongly suggests that at least some of the missing material was once present in the official production workflow, legally captured, cataloged, and perhaps even prepared for broadcast before being removed, locked away, and effectively erased from the public record. What started as casual curiosity has transformed into a full-scale treasure hunt. Online communities dissect every frame, comparing notes, and mapping out potential contents of the legendary 140-hour vault. With each new detail confirmed, the story grows more compelling. This isn't just speculation, and it isn't just hype. The vault exists, it's organized, and the evidence left behind in tiny traces across interviews and posts may provide fans and insiders alike the first real glimpse into what has remained unseen for years.
Does he know y'all have this in the doc?
I would doubt he knows.
So when this airs, that'll be the first time that his legal team, Diddy, that everybody knows that this footage is now seeing the light of day. Perhaps. What was he intending to use it for?
I have no idea what he used that for.
The more we piece everything together, the more it seems that Sean Diddy Combs' decades-long obsession with self-documentation may have inadvertently created the very trap that could unravel him. From his earliest days running Bad Boy Entertainment, cameras followed his every move backstage, on tour, in private homes, even in moments he thought would never be seen. Former employees have told reporters that Diddy liked having everything recorded as a way of maintaining control, as evidence of his empire, his influence, his foresight. What he likely didn't anticipate is that those same tapes could now be used against him in ways no one could have imagined. Imagine hundreds of hours of uncut footage capturing private arguments, clandestine meetings, and guests at his infamous white parties, celebrities, executives, politicians, all on camera inside sprawling mansions that police would later raid. If these drives truly exist, this is no longer the story of one man's scandal, it's a digital time bomb buried deep within the culture itself. And that is exactly why the entertainment industry is so tense. Everyone who has ever attended one of these parties, worked in Diddy's orbit, or had dealings with his empire is suddenly looking over their shoulder. Former Bad Boy artists have gone silent, some quietly deleting old photos, while publicists and agents are preemptively scrubbing mentions of events, rewriting press bios, and distancing clients to avoid being caught in the fallout. 50 Cent seems fully aware of this tension, and that's what makes his grin so unsettling. He's not posting cryptic emojis or teasing Bolt Fridays for headlines, he's holding a weaponized archive of memory, one that, once released, cannot be contained. Even Netflix, with its global reach and corporate might, cannot compete with the wildfire potential of YouTube and social media. And what could be lurking on those drives? Scenes of high-profile guests behaving recklessly, discussions of deals that could implicate other labels or even government investigators. The FBI raid reports from 2024 already revealed homes brimming with digital storage, servers, cameras, memory cards labeled with party dates, Kim Porter tributes, Las Vegas 2012, an entire chronology of recorded history waiting to be unraveled. It's not just Diddy who could be exposed. Lawyers whisper about potential collateral damage, careers of those who had nothing to do with music, executives, assistants, and public figures who inadvertently appear in the background. Hollywood is tense. Everyone acts nonchalant, but every agent, manager, and publicist has quietly asked the same question: was my client ever at one of those events? The industry is preemptively protecting itself, knowing that Diddy's story has become toxic currency, profitable for anyone brave enough to tell it, ruinous for anyone connected to it. At the center of it all stands 50 Cent, part villain, part vigilante, orchestrating chaos with the calm precision of someone who already knows how the story ends. As rumors swirl, one truth becomes unavoidable: the 140 hours of unreleased footage aren't simply leftovers from a documentary. They are an unedited mirror reflecting a world that presented itself as glamorous while hiding decay, corruption, and misdeeds. If the vault ever opens, the consequences won't stop with a single man behind bars. They could ripple through record labels, streaming services, and boardrooms that believed they could outlast scandal. Perhaps that's why Netflix blinked first. Perhaps executives saw what we're all on the verge of discovering and realized they didn't want to be the ones holding the camera when history turned ugly. And now we wait. Fans, journalists, insiders, all are scanning social feeds like investigators, watching for that first leak, that first fragment, that first undeniable proof. Will 50 Cent actually release the footage, or is he using the vault as leverage, a means to rewrite the narrative of who truly controls the truth in hip-hop? If it ever drops, it could upend everything we think we know about fame, loyalty, influence, and power. Until then, the question hangs over the industry like a storm cloud: what really lies in those 140 hours that terrified a billion-dollar company into silence? The vault is real. The tension is palpable. And every post, every smirk, every cryptic tease is a reminder that this story is far from over. The only certainty is that once the doors open, nothing and no one will be safe from its reach.